Hi folks, welcome. I'm Chris Leatham. This is The Economy and You. Today's guest is Rod Tam, and Rod Tam is a businessman, former member of the House and the Senate. He decided to join me today because we want to talk about something that's just near and dear to all of our hearts, and that's our wonderful economy here in Hawaii. Rod, hi. Welcome to Think Tech Hawaii.
Thank you very much, Chris. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So you're no longer in the House and the Senate,
right?
But you're now working as a business consultant.
Yes. And as a business consultant, what I do is business plans, marketing plans, legal research, like to the Bureau of Conveyance, for example. And I also do international relationships with Asian countries.
Oh, okay, okay. We only have a few of those, so.
Yeah. And not everybody knows how to do it. And I learned how to do that international relationship when I was a state visitor. For 28 years.
Yeah. So we are, we are sort of now in the midst of an interesting scenario because our stock market, the last few weeks has been in the doldrums.
Right.
With the Chinese currency being devalued.
Right.
We've got challenges with oil prices. This is really seems to be having a major impact on our equity markets and our commodity markets. We've got unemployment issues because unemployment, although they say unemployment's low, what we know is as we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of people who've just sort of thrown up their hands and say, I give up.
Actually, if I may say openly, that the true percentage of unemployment is false.
It's a false number.
Yeah. Unemployment is not 3% as calculated through the state of Hawaii. And it only counts in terms of those who are collecting workers' unemployment compensation.
Okay.
But really, it's about 10% unemployed.
Because there's so many people that are no longer eligible?
Not eligible, they don't apply. People on welfare, quite frankly. Senior citizens that got fired, not able to find a job, but they extended their means in terms of collecting unemployment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing is that our economy isn't behaving well.
It's very negative, to be honest with you. We have a bad economy whereby you have a lot of unemployment. The cost of living is high.
Cost of living is high. We were talking just before we came on, we were talking about food is high.
Right.
Gasoline is high, and higher than on the mainland.
Right.
Housing is just off the charts.
Well, that's why you have a lot of homeless people when you think about it. And homeless is not only on the street, living on the sidewalk, but homeless are within your homes, your relatives.
Yeah, people that
they
are
can't
double
afford,
triple yes. And one of the things I got a statistic from Senator Chen Oakland that more than half of our homeless people are elderly or senior citizens.
Well, over 60% of our population on Oahu and throughout the state of Hawaii is senior citizens.
Is that right?
Yep.
Wow. So that's sort of created. We don't have that sort of age pyramid happening then. We have something like maybe more like an hourglass.
Right, and you know what? The burden financially is on the senior citizens on paying taxes, really, and supporting their families.
Right.
You go to Costco. I have friends who go to Costco, and I go there. I see them buying shopping cart loads of food. They're not buying for themselves, husband and wife, or maybe a single senior person, but they're buying it for their family. Whether they live with them or they live in the same island.
So, so we sort of realized that Hawaii, there is a price to living in paradise. I mean, people come here with sort of accepting that. We have a sort of a transient population. Part of our population is somewhat transient. Our young people often have to go to the mainland to look for work because there aren't the opportunities in Hawaii. Here in a variety of industries that our young people who we do educate well pursue. On the other hand, there's also challenges in our public education system. We have been deemed as one of the lowest performing areas in the nation in terms of academic success.
Right.
So is that an imbalance? But that seems to be coming out of the public school system. But yet we've got some really great private schools, but they're expensive. And there's no break. If you're putting your kid in a private school, you still pay taxes for the kids going to public school.
Right, right.
But then I hear the teachers complain, then they're not being paid well enough. So if the teachers aren't being paid well enough, and our kids aren't doing well enough, and our taxes are too high, it just seems like that we've painted ourselves into a corner here, Rod.
Well, education system was much better back in the 1980s.
Okay.
Mid 80s. And what happened, it got worse. Why? Because they started eroding the funds for public education. They looked at it in terms of students that had to go to college. So now there's a 20% dropout in high school, public high schools.
And by the way, that 20% dropout is mostly boys.
Right.
It's the vast majority of them, in fact, are boys.
And you know why? Basically, because school is not interested in challenging for them. They don't challenge them enough. Our public high schools have got rid of all the vocational education programs.
And that would seem problematic, especially in a place like Hawaii where we have a lot of trades.
Right.
This is a place where trades are an imperative. It would seem to me that having trades and having an association or businesses working together with the vocational schools, as we see in places like Germany, for example. Germany is screaming for workers. Germany has a very successful vocational program. In fact, they're renowned for their vocational program. So why would we not be investing heavily in this?
Well, because everybody has a mind attitude that go to college. Forget about the trades, just get a clean job on a desk. But you know, quite frankly, tradespeople make more money. If I had to do it over again, and I'm 62 years old, I would have gone into appliance repair.
Well, it's never too late.
But, you know, basically, I have to go back to school. And,
no, that doesn't
and
sound
it
very
was hard
inviting,
for me,
does it?
and right now I'm just barely surviving financially
Yes.
myself.
Yeah, so it's a tough world. So, and the thing is that we have some challenges like the Jones Act, for example, which of course is. And the thing that astounds me about the Jones Act, here's a bill or a law that was passed before Hawaii was even a state.
Right.
And the fact that Hawaii, Alaska, Puerto Rico, and places like this cannot muster the clout to go into Congress and have Congress say, hey, wait a minute, this law isn't fair, and it existed prior to us being part of the union. Why don't you fix this for us? Give us an exemption.
You know why? Because there's one company, Masson, that makes a lot of money. We basically have a monopoly here. And then here's something that why doesn't it have been changed? Well, a former senator who deceased, Danny Noy, he had stocks in Masson.
Oh, that seems interesting.
Yeah.
Seems
And it came out in the newspaper and so forth, but nobody did anything. Everybody thought he was God. In fact, he had a nickname. They called him the Godfather.
Yes.
It was not Larry Howe. It was Danny Noy. And they also called him the one-armed bandit.
Yes. I remember. I've heard that term a couple of times. But now, if we're, how would we, in your mind's eye, because you'd been in the legislature and you've seen all the things that had gone on there, and we know that making laws is a bit like a sausage factory. You know, most people wouldn't want to participate in either watching sausage getting made or watching laws getting made.
Right.
It's a pretty ugly process, and there's a lot of push and pull and horse trading and threats of, you know, if you kill my bill, I'll kill your bill, and things like that. They go on in this in the legislative process. Should we have, looking back hindsight, should we have been taking a different approach to building our economy through the legislative process?
Well, basically, you have to, first of all, empower the people. See, what happened is we don't empower the people enough. When I was a legislator, state legislator, I empowered my constituents and those who wanted to get legislation through. I taught them the legislative process. And I made models out of it and so forth. And one of the first group that I helped was the high school students from Kamiki High School. And they got a piece of legislation whereby changing the curfew laws on their own.
Okay.
Because they learned how to use the legislative process. But See, there's not enough legislators that want to do that because you're giving away a secret.
That's a challenging thing. And, one of the things I did do a little survey. I was working on some software as part of a sort of a competition of software developers, one of the startup weekends. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to attend one. But we were developing software, and we decided we wanted to write software that helps people understand laws or bills that were being proposed.
Well, that's great.
And one of the things that we found, and we asked people, do you vote?
Right.
And they say, no, my vote wouldn't make any difference anyway. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. Somewhere we have taught young people, or they've learned that they have devalued themselves in the political process, that their vote doesn't matter, it doesn't count. And so I'm wondering, where did they get that concept that they are no longer empowered to have an impact on our society?
Well, let me make a show and tell, if I may.
Sure.
I went to public school. I went to my elementary school, Quantico, then Roosevelt High School. Graduated in 1972. During those years, the teachers were given more flexibility what to teach and how to teach it. Today, it's a top-down situation where the teachers are given textbooks. You teach out of the textbook, not in terms of practical application. When I was 6th grade, I had a teacher, Mrs. Matsumoto, I remember her name. She actually had group studies for us.
Okay.
We studied different countries. We studied their form of governments as compared to the United States and so forth. And we did projects, a show and tell. And it was a lot of fun, hands-on. Then I remember Quantico Intermediate School, Mrs. Fujimoto, and we learned about in terms of Hawaii's history. Okay, they take over the monarch system so forth, and then we actually did writing papers on that. Okay, so it was creative. Then I went to Roosevelt High School, Mrs. Tomei, a class I took as a junior, American Studies, and we didn't have any textbooks. We had newspaper articles, even articles from Newsweek, and we analyzed it. It was not a matter in terms of whether your ability was good not to write or not. It was your thought process. And we did role playing.
I see.
And I even played the role of a defense attorney. And at that time, abortion was illegal.
Okay.
So I had to represent a student who was a doctor and perform abortion. And what happened in conclusion, he got scared. So he admitted, I'm guilty. And I said, why do you do that? We're winning.
Yes.
And then so the teacher said, okay, end of the role playing. And we analyzed it. And everybody said, you're winning. Why did you quit? You got scared.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I guess what you're trying to say is that there was an empowerment in that process. There was an empowerment for you.
This is what the teachers are fighting for right now.
Right.
You know, our superintendent, in due respect to her, nice person, but she's not an educator. She's a businesswoman. She doesn't understand the educational field. She was the wrong choice.
Well, I think my thought process is that if we're going to bring people in, and we have a problem with teachers complaining about their pay, my question is there too much bureaucracy? Is there too much bureaucracy within the educational process, within the Board of Education? Have we diverted too much money away from the classroom?
Yes, we have, all those.
Okay, because...
And what he did is we have appointed Board of Education. That was the wrong thing to do. Now you don't have the parents' involvement. You don't have the teachers' involvement in the public hearings. You don't have the students' involvement. Because they have these public hearings in the morning and working day. Who can attend? It's like having a hidden back room type of public hearing.
And we don't have any of that going on in Hawaii.
Oh, hey, we have a lot of that.
We have a lot of that going on.
When you had elected Board of Education, it was at night, or weekends. And they would travel to the different islands. Now they don't.
Now they don't. Okay. Well, we're going to be right back with former Representative and Senator Rod Tam. I'm Chris Leatham. This is The Economy and You. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the other issues that we need to address in terms of what we can do as far as solutions for our economy. And we'll be right back. Aloha.
Aloha! Please join the Hawaii Farmers Series every Thursday on ThinkTech, We live stream from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. And we are
Matthew Johnson and Justine Spiritu as your hosts.
And the purpose of the Hawaii Farmers Series is to get to know our local agriculture community a lot more, get their backgrounds, get their history, find out why they love what they do, as well as get some of their insights.
And insights into hearing about the future of agriculture in Hawaii.
So we're going to bring the experts on, but we'd also like you to be a part of the conversation. So you can always join us by tweeting in your questions and comment at ThinkTechHigh. So we hope to engage with you. Thanks.
Aloha, my name is Kaui Lucas. I am the host of Hawaii is My Mainland, here every Friday on Think Tech Hawaii at 3 p.m. I invite people who are doing interesting and inspiring things in our community to help us keep it local and keep it real. Tune in any Friday, 3 p.m. and also available on our YouTube channel and my blog, kauilucas.com. Hawaii is my mainland. Aloha.
Hi, I'm Chris Leatham. Welcome back to The Economy and You. Today's guest, I'm having a hard time, is Rod Tam, former member of the House and the Senate. Rod, we were talking a little bit about some of the issues about empowering people. Now, when you talk about empowerment, we have a huge homeless problem. We've seen it, it's been around a long time, but it's sort of come to the top of the public's concern these days. It's the number one issue here in Hawaii now, but it's been a long time coming, and it's been a problem that's persisted for a very long time. It's now the thing that it's almost like we have to declare a state of emergency to address this issue. It's gotten so bad. Why do you think it is that it has gotten to this point? Why haven't we been able to effectively address this problem till now?
What you just mentioned, Chris, is the one that ills of our bad economy. Homeless. Okay?
Yes.
And we have to understand who are the homeless.
Okay.
Okay? And then a lot of people just shun them basically, or they're dirty and so forth and degrading. You know, not necessarily so. Anybody can be homeless.
Yes.
As a reality. In fact, let me mention in terms of there are homeless who live on the street, and there are homeless in our homes, extended families. You know, those children who are going to be grown up and have children of their own can afford rental units, can afford buying, so they live with the parents, and technically they're homeless.
And then there are lots of course, you see young people here, and I was walking around last night around Ala Moana Shopping Center and the Kaka'ako area. And I ran into homeless people who were young people, otherwise healthy, not dirty, not mentally unstable, not drug users. They're just young people now that don't have family, and they're living out of shopping carts. And when I see that, you know, you really have to ask yourself, well, I've got able-bodied people who are working, who have jobs, but are living out of shopping carts. You know, and yet, we understand this is a problem. We've now started to build some facilities, micro-housing. We've got some, I think, used containers that we built out at Sand Island now to start some transitional housing. But it seems to me that we are a long way from solving this problem.
Well, you have to analyze in terms of what are the different categories of homeless.
Okay.
Number one, there are homeless that basically they're working, but they can't afford the rent.
Yes.
Okay. Now, to rent a modest type of federal subsidized housing or state subsidized, you're talking about a studio. That's $1,100 a month.
Yeah.
That you have to pay utilities on your own also too.
That's right.
And then if you're lucky, affordable rental housing with a one bedroom is something like $1,500 a month. Plus, you have to pay your utilities.
Right.
Okay. So it's very expensive. Who can afford it? Basically, when you think about when you have minimum wage, or basically we don't keep up with the cost of wages like in the mainland.
Yes.
Our people here in Hawaii get paid less in terms of whatever position they play, whether it be employee or even that of management, get paid less than the mainland.
Yeah, and we're known as a tax hell. We're not known as a tax haven. We're known as a tax hell. So we have high taxes on top of low wages, on top of high
highest cost of living
Yes.
in the United States.
Yes, yes. Electricity side, 3 times higher than it is on average on the mainland. We're paying more for our vehicles and for gasoline for our vehicles, if we have a vehicle. One of the good things I would say is that we do have a fairly good bus service in Hawaii.
Oh, yes.
So I do want to give credit to the bus service.
Well,
They do work hard. The only problem is if you're in traffic, and you're driving, you're stuck behind a bus. That's like the most frustrating place in the world to be. But other than that, I would say that's the one thing I would say that's great about Hawaii. But
by the way, the second group of homeless,
Uh-huh.
basically those who are mentally ill,
The mentally ill.
and no one's helping them. Why? Because there's no outreach to them.
Well,
And
we
they-
talk about outreach
Yeah.
to the homeless, though. We talk about outreach to the mentally ill. Is it that we just don't have an ability to coordinate the effort effectively, or because one of the things about the homeless, what was the project? Housing First project,
Right.
was that it just get them into some kind of housing. Even the mentally ill, get them into some kind of housing. It was much easier and much more cost effective to provide treatment to them. Once you've got them into some kind of housing. But you have to have the housing to put them in, and if you don't have the housing, what are you going to do?
Well, you have to do outreach first. You have to go out into the community
Okay.
and get them. You can't expect them to come to you because they don't know that sometimes they have a problem or maybe they're too shy about it.
Right, I'm crazy, so I'm going to come see you, right? No, I mean, people don't operate that way.
No.
They don't say, well, I feel bad or I have a mental problem, I need help. And because, people are who are, and we all see them here.
Right.
Right. We sometimes will stop and, get them a sandwich or something like that. But, much more than that, we generally don't do.
Right. And that's what I'm talking about. There has to be those social workers that go out or medical people that go out into the field.
Right.
Then the last group of people, the homeless, are those that just want to be left alone. They want no part of society and they're comfortable how they live. But yet we brand them negatively, right?
Because a lot of them, they'll live in tents.
Yeah.
They live in vehicles,
Right.
that are parked on the street, maybe legally or illegally. I did see an interesting article in the online talking about going back to maybe traditional style Hawaiian housing. I'd hate to say little grass shacks, but these are actually the people you're talking about are people who are talking about living more toward a traditional
Well,
Hawaiian
you
lifestyle.
can't do that, be honest with you, because you have the building code.
It's a problem.
And-
Just can't get that grass shack to meet
You know,
the building
basically,
codes.
you do that, government does that, we're going to be liable,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Anything happens to them, we build it, we
Yes,
structure it,
Yes.
and it's like a grass shack per se.
Uh-huh.
And it falls apart and they get injured, we're going to get sued.
But I guess what I'm saying is not necessarily building a grass shack, but in the sense of living in a very modest type lifestyle, whether it's an itty bitty little house or, and of course, one of the things that we don't have here is we don't have trailer parks in Hawaii.
Right.
Now, on the mainland, for people who don't have a lot of money or have a lot of means, they have the option to live in some kind of a trailer. Would that be an option for Hawaii? Maybe in places like West Oahu, where there is, some land available, where we could build either RV type parks or trailer parks, where people could either have a small mobile vehicle, but would give them things like a water hookup and showers, electricity, so that they had, some ability to live a more, comfortable.
That would be
lifestyle.
favorable. In fact, people can live in the cars. By law, you can't sleep in your car at all.
can or cannot?
Cannot.
You cannot sleep
During
in
the
your car.
daytime and nighttime, you get cited for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's illegal.
Oh, I guess I better
So
quit.
if you
better
had
quit taking naps in
if you
my
had a
vehicle.
camp, and the homeless person has a car because they lost control of rental, right? Because they don't have the money, they can't keep up with their payment monthly. So if they do have that car, they could sleep in there, and be safe, right? But if you do that now, whether it be in terms of on the street, even if you're feeling ill, or you're drunk, you drank too much, and you stop. The cop comes along and he cites you.
Ah.
And he arrests you for that too.
Or sleeping intoxicated inside of a vehicle.
Even sleeping in your car.
Ah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we should have those trailer parks.
A word to the wise, right?
Yeah. So, but there's a lot of money that the state of Hawaii gave back to the federal government, housing funds, and they could have used that money to help subsidize those who needed housing.
Well, let me ask you, Rod. I mean, I'll play devil's
go
advocate
ahead.
with you here because you talk about this housing problem.
Yeah.
One of the big issues a lot of people talk about is, hey, look, we got all these people coming over from the mainland who think that they can live on pineapples and coconuts and sleep under palm trees. Is that a reality?
No, it's not.
Okay. So our homeless problem is well, we do have some Micronesians that have come in,
Right.
and we've seen those folks, and I think we are working to help them get into some sort of transitional housing. But the reality of it is this is a homegrown problem.
Right.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of elderly that are homeless.
Right.
Is there a way? I mean, is there really a way to solve this problem? Is it just our demographic because we have a larger, older population? Is part of the problem our demographic here? Is it a problem? Is part of our education or our economy? I mean, we are built around the tourism jobs. We have 9 million tourists a year. These are not well-paying jobs.
Right.
Do we need to continue and work harder at diversifying our economy and maybe taking a look at creating jobs in the technology space?
You're talking about, generally speaking, our economy again.
Yes.
Basically. That, in terms of the homeless, we could have used some of that federal housing subsidy for helping those to get housing on a temporary basis. Okay. We also needed to look in terms of their short-term and long-term. We don't have any plans of action for that. I've been in government I was in government for 28 years. Did you know that the state of Hawaii and the city county of Honolulu doesn't have any goals and objectives?
So they haven't really set any objectives in terms of what they want to accomplish on these problems.
We do financial planning year by year.
Yes, that's true.
And it's on a cash basis, basically.
Uh-huh.
But in other countries like China and so forth, before they open the doors,
Well, they do like a 5-year plan or a 10-year
year
plan?
yearly plan, 5-year plans, 10-year plan proposal, 15, 20-year. We never done that. And so basically, we don't know where we're going at from one day to the next. And we can't plan properly, whereby we get out of a deficit.
Well, is that, I mean, yeah, I don't know exactly what the amount of debt that this state carries. I think there are laws that mitigate how much debt or limit the amount of debt that we as a state can accrue.
No, there's none.
There's none?
What it is that you have a ceiling as what you can spend on budget. You can always vote, the legislators can vote to go above that ceiling.
Oh, okay.
So you can get money in
So
debt.
it's a rule as long as everybody agrees it's a rule.
Yeah.
And then when they say, well, no, we don't like this rule, then we can just,
It's like a charge card, basically. You have a limit,
Okay.
say. But then you can always go over that limit if you're willing to pay the interest.
If you're willing to pay the interest. Well, I mean, we pay the interest, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are your thoughts then in terms of how do we start to move forward? How do we start to unwind the situation that we're in?
We have to look in terms of goals and objectives,
Okay.
short-term and long-term. Short-term meaning year by year. Long-term meaning 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Plan for the future. We had never done that before.
Okay. So I want to talk, we're going to go take a commercial break, and then I want to talk about this 5 and 10-year plan and what components that we need to add to it to ensure that it's successful. Okay. I'm Chris Leatham. I'm here with Rod Tam today, former legislator, and we'll be right back.
Okay, this is Think Tech Hawaii, and it's Wednesday. Every Wednesday is Energy Wednesday here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy. 4 to 5 p.m. every Wednesday. Come and listen to us. And just to show you what I mean, I'm going to ask Sharon to tell us more.
Come and see us every Wednesday, as Jay said. And we have people like Jim Albers from HECO, here and co-host Ray Starling here every Wednesday. We not only go on Olelo and OC16, but also stream live. So please come visit us, hear about the latest in clean energy.
Okay, Jim, you've been here. You got any comment on all this?
As important as energy is in all of our lives today, this is a great forum and a great format to vet those issues. So I encourage everybody to listen in and participate.
Okay, Ray, what do you think for a close?
Well, I think this is the greatest show in the energy world here in Hawaii. You can come here every week, 1 hour, and catch the latest on what's happening and hear from the people who really know what's going on, like Jim Alberts. We appreciate your coming today.
Thank you.
Ray Starling, Sharon Moriwaki, Jim Alberts, and Jay Fidel here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy, 4 to 5 p.m. Wednesday. Aloha.
Aloha.
Hi, I'm Chris Letha. Welcome back to The Economy and You. Today's guest is Rod Tam. We are having a very serious discussion about the economy, about what we need to go forward to move Hawaii sort of out of, I would say, the doldrums,
Right.
and stimulate our economy so that we have growth without overdevelopment, opportunity without squeezing, we want opportunity at the high end without squeezing people out of the bottom.
Right.
Okay, for me as a father, one of the things I look at is I would like to have my kids be able to come back to Hawaii and live, have opportunities for them here. Unfortunately, their skill set and the education they got, they're more financially secure living on the mainland instead of being here with their family.
It's true. It's
Yes.
very, very true. In fact, I have 2 young adult children, and they still live at home because they're both going to school yet, 24 and 25. And I want them to go to school, but I do realize that one day they may not be here because the opportunities are very narrow. Hawaii, the government is not planning for the future at all. Most of our jobs basically are in the tourist area, and related to that is retail and restaurants.
Yes, and we have a plethora of restaurants.
Right.
I went walking down Keomoku last night, and I was just amazed how many restaurants there are. And the sad part is a lot of them are really empty. Now, maybe it's Tuesday night. I don't know. Maybe it's a Tuesday night thing, but there was maybe 1 or 2 customers in a lot of the restaurants. I'm just thinking, this isn't an economy that's conducive to our growth, to growth.
Well, you know what's happening? People sell food because that's part of our lifestyle here,
Yes.
right? The basic foundation is having food and shelter and some clothing, right? Basic clothing. But in terms of other opportunities, what is that? We have to develop it. And in terms of our economy, we take in terms of what we have.
Yes.
And the brain drain, so to speak, okay? And the knowledgeable people, and create those industries. We're not doing that.
So do you think that we can do this when you're talking about setting a 2 or a 5 or 10-year plan?
Right.
What we need to do is we need to do maybe a very comprehensive town hall meeting type scenario where we talk to. Here's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see us talking to our young people who are here, but also the young people who have left, and say, what would it take to get the best and the brightest to come home? What would they need to see in order to bring their knowledge and know-how back to Hawaii to grow our economy here in Hawaii? You know, we've got young people that go to some of the finest colleges around the world. We send kids to Harvard and Yale and Stanford and MIT, and we send them over there. They get a great education, and then they're not coming back home to Hawaii. So the question is, what can we do to draw them back to Hawaii? What kind of investments do we need to make? And maybe one of the things, of course, manufacturing is a big problem for us here in Hawaii because of the Jones Act, the cost of bringing goods to and from Hawaii. And some people may say that's not an issue, but just the perception that that's a problem creates a problem.
There's one whole big area that we should have looked at for a number of years ago. And some people have thought about it, but nothing really has been planned out. That is international business.
Okay.
International business uses technology, science, and so forth, the modes of our economy around the world. But we haven't gravitated. I tell you why, quite frankly. We once had a senator, Danny Noy, I hate to point fingers at him, but this is the truth. He created in terms of East-West Center, academic.
Right.
And then he talked about international business, international center relationships, but he never wanted to extend more than that. I tell you why, because he wanted to control it.
Okay.
Okay? And there's money in it for it. But you want to share that money? No, of course not, quite frankly. It's been said that every time he brought money to Hawaii, there was a lot of percentage for him. Okay? But anyway, be it so, we need to develop now an international arena of businesses here because we have the multicultural environment.
So how do we do that? How do we draw them into Hawaii? Do we need to improve the quality of our education? Do we need more infrastructure? Do we need to be bringing, one of the issues that we've had for a long time is the lack of bandwidth, which has just only recently been addressed. The telecom started bringing more bandwidth into Hawaii, which is great, which was sorely needed. So the question in my mind is, do we, as a legislator, what should we be doing? Should we be providing tax credits? Should we be creating laws that when we have foreign investors bring money into Hawaii, that keeps those dollars here and working in our economy? In other words, when I was a kid, we used to have something called a minnow trap, right? It's a big hole on this side and a little hole on the other side. The minnows would swim in and they wouldn't swim back out again. So should we be figuring out ways to create sort of money traps where foreign dollars come in, but they don't necessarily leave? And I don't say like, in a mean way, but if we create opportunities for foreign investment to stay in Hawaii and have those dollars invigorate our economy, wouldn't that make sense as a part of a solution, overall solution to grow and solve problems like, homelessness, work on our education for our young people, build more affordable housing, workforce housing that we can afford. The rail has been extremely controversial. Okay, so we're talking about building more housing along the railroad in order to diminish the need for cars. It's obviously that you're going to have a lifestyle change if you move away from owning vehicles, because that's also been, let's face it, a part of our culture here.
To develop this international business environment for Hawaii, which will prosper our economy, you have to look in terms of the ingredients that we need.
Okay.
And some of the things you said about software and so forth, and then the different education programs that we now do for our students, whether they be at University of Hawaii, Hawaii Pacific University, Chaminade, or whatever.
So is there a disconnect between business and our academic institutions? Is there a disconnect? Or should we be working harder to build a bridge?
You got to work together. You got to work together as a family, and we're not doing that. And then, part of it is because, I remember when I went to college at University of Hawaii, and they said, it's up to you to learn. I said, what do you mean up to me? If the teacher or the professor cannot speak English well, how can I understand? I had an experience whereby I had a professor in economics. He was from someplace in Europe, and he got nervous in front of the class. On top of that, he didn't know what he was saying. Every time he said, right? Because he couldn't speak English well. And then I had a lab teacher in economics who was Korean. He couldn't pronounce his numbers. So basically, we have to match the two together in terms of our business environment to that of our educational system. You got to send those professors back into the field to learn about reality.
Now, what about the students themselves? In Japan, there is a very tight relationship between the professors and the businesses.
Right.
And the professors essentially will help move a student into a corporate environment, and so that they sort of get locked in. In other words, they're sort of giving them a foot up, getting them into a corporate environment where they can start to develop their career. I don't know that I see that here.
No, there's none. It used to have whereby you had vocational education in public high schools. They got rid of it. Like, for example, Kamiki High School had a good vocational education program in auto mechanics. They got rid of that. And there was a award-winning program too, because they didn't want to spend the money, and they wanted everybody to go to college academically rather than being hands-on. And I'll give you an example in Kamehameha School. My twin nephews went there. one of them had problems in high school, but he took this drafting course. Because he took the drafting course, he experienced in terms that he wanted to go into engineering, and he got a bachelor's degree in engineering.
That's great.
Yeah, but you don't have that now. So students don't know what to do, and some of them don't come from an environment where they want to go to college, right? In fact, even a truck driver, and people should not put down truck drivers, they make good money.
Yes.
Right? It's not, everybody can drive a 3-ton, 5-ton truck, basically. I couldn't.
Yeah.
Right?
So if we're going to grow our economy, and I mean, it would seem to me that technology is going to be an integral part of that. So if we're going to do that, then do we need to be teaching more about technology in schools? You know, and I know in some places they start teaching computer programming in 2nd, 3rd grade. The kids are already starting to understand structures of logic and how software works, what programming is all about, how computers work. So maybe that's part of it, but also I can see the value of the vocational education. Because, by the way, in case a lot of people don't realize this, these systems integrate. You know, you have what they call integrated systems, which use what you learn as an engineering student or an electrician, combined with your knowledge of, say, software development or your knowledge of circuitry.
Right.
Okay, and all these come together to create sort of synergistic solutions. And by the way, these jobs pay extremely well. These are great paying opportunities for young people.
I used to travel to Asian countries a lot as a diplomat between Hawaii, China, Taiwan, Japan. Like, for example, I've been to China 20 times by invitation, Taiwan 12 times. And I did business relationships, international relationships between cities and so forth. I formulated it. And then I had this one friend in Taiwan who owned a high school.
He owned the high school?
He owned a high school, private high school. And their system is a dual system. They have an academic program and they have a vocational education program. And then those who wanted to become electricians, for example, by the time they finish high school, 12th grade, they get a license to be an electrician. But they can also go on to college because they had the basic foundation. We don't have that here. We had it years ago, but we don't have it.
Well, college is very expensive today.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that we're addressing is that we've got young men that aren't going to college. We have 2 girls for every guy in our college system in the United States today. It's of course, that's great for you if you're a young guy. You know, it's a wonderful thing. But the problem is, of course, is that we don't have enough people. We don't have a balance.
Right.
And maybe vocational jobs are a part of the solution. You know, one of the things that made America great was its manufacturing base. And I don't know, can we build a manufacturing base in Hawaii? Can we do that? It just seems that it's somewhat beyond the scope of what we can accomplish.
I wouldn't
here.
say manufacturing example. I would say service-oriented base.
A service-oriented base.
Or vocational trades, quite frankly. Like, for example, your appliance breaks down. Say your washing machine. What are you going to do? You're going to call a repairman, right?
Well, I'm going to call Sears and get a new washing machine.
and they have people who can repair.
All right.
But they don't necessarily go to college.
Well, let me ask you this. We're in our last minute of the show here.
Yeah.
Is there, if people wanted to talk to you more about your work as a business consultant, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Well, call my cellular, area code 808-216-5454.
Okay. And you would like to talk with folks about international business?
Yes.
Do consulting along those lines?
I've done that before, and I taught people, businesses, how to do it.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you for being on the show today and being on Think Tech
my
Hawaii.
pleasure. Thank
It's
you.
very nice to have you on the show. You know, this is one of those issues that seems to compel us to keep working harder.
Well, you can't just talk about it once. It has to be a number of times so
Yes.
that we can have something really concrete.
Well, thank you again, Ron.
Thank
And
you.
I'm Chris Letha. This is The Economy and You, and we'll see you again next week, Wednesday at 3. Aloha.